Crickets. Hello everybody, how are you doing? We kick off this volume with the sound of crickets. It is, now that's local music, 113. Woo! Well, this one came out just a couple of weeks ago now. It's now late 2022, which means it's been 40 years that now history has been going. Since Now One, which came out in late 1983. Here we are, late 2022. Volume 113. What's in store then? Well, let's go through all the songs and see which ones are real classics, which ones are going to stand the test of time. And as always, I invite you to have your say. Let me know what you think in the comments. I've just got some words to kind of get the ball rolling. But I'm really interested in what everyone else thinks. What do we as a society think of these songs? Well, we start with a guy who's not been around for the last few years, on Now history anyway. He was here about 3 or 4 years ago on almost every volume. It's Lewis Capaldi. The song's called Forget Me. Now, if you remember, Lewis's kind of shtick is that he sings really, really loudly. He shouts. Even on a kind of gentle, tender love song, Lewis is there shouting. He doesn't do it immediately in this one. It takes about a minute to get to kind of shouty levels. By the end of it, he's at full pelt. So if that's your bag, if that's what you like, it doesn't disappoint. It's not a bad song, as the song goes. It's fairly kind of mid-paced, relatively acoustic, mainly piano-driven with some lightly processed beats. And he starts off singing fairly quietly, but by the end of it, he's really kind of shouting. So, if that's what you like, welcome to "Forget Me" by Lewis Capaldi. You're welcome to it. Okay, how do we follow this one then? Well, it's another stalwart of recent Now history. Been around for a good 10, 15 years now. It's Sam Smith with a new collaborator, not someone I've previously heard of, Kim Petras, and the song is called Unholy. Is it an unholy racket? Well, you can always know with Sam Smith there's going to be something good about it. This one's a bit of a trawl. It's kind of plodding, but the chorus is pretty rousing when it finally gets there. It's kind of strange and it's different. It's kind of got an African vibe in the choruses, not for the last time on this album. Whereas the instrumental section's kind of more Asian, and it's got this kind of clanking rhythm. So it's definitely interesting, and it sticks in your head. That's Sam Smith and Kim Petras with Unholy. Now, third up, we've got a song from the Top Gun Maverick soundtrack. And it's not the first. We had one from Lady Gaga a couple of years ago. Should we stick it on? It's because we never really play their stuff. It's One Republic, and I Ain't Worried. And that follows, there we go, Lewis Capaldi and Forget Me. We could never forget you, Lewis, as long as you're shouting in our ear. How could we forget you? So, One Republic, I Ain't Worried from Top Gun Maverick. Well, it's kind of it's quite fast, it's sort of quite up-tempo. It's kind of got a bit of a boy band vibe in the vocals. And musically, it's kind of soft rock, quite jangly. It's not one of the best songs in the world. It's quite upbeat, it's quite fun, and it's got some whistling on it, so not bad, not bad. It's One Republic. Now, Stormzy is next with Hide and Seek. It was a very old song by Howard Jones called Hide and Seek. It's not that. It's not one of his best, to be honest. The gentle chanted chorus background vocals are kind of okay, and the atmosphere is quite nice, but it's just not very interesting. The vocals aren't very interesting, the beats aren't very interesting, and it's kind of over before it's even started. It's a bit underwhelming, really. I mean, Stormzy has done some fairly hard-hitting and memorable stuff. This isn't one of them. A bit kind of lackluster, really. That's Hide and Seek by Stormzy. Now, Ed Sheeran makes the first of many, many appearances on this album. And it's, I think, the first Pokemon-related song ever to make it now. Am I right there? Or has there been any others? It's called Celestial. And it's got a very, very big sound. It kind of reminds me of something like Emily Sandy that kind of thing, only with Ed's vocals. And he's done all sorts recently, from kind of acoustic ballads to electronic dance numbers. This is somewhere in the middle, maybe a bit generic, melodically speaking, but his singing's good on it. And the kind of grandiose choirs give it a real big sound. So that's Ed Sheeran and Celestial, Dance All Over Me, George Ezra. I'm sure that'd be rather painful, George, someone dancing all over you. Now, the chorus on this one sounds a bit like a slowed down version of Shotgun, i.e. he's kind of repeating his own songs. And it's still very classy and uplifting, as you'd expect from George. Lots of strings, lots of choirs and stuff. It sounds like it's had $1 million spent on the production, but it's just a bit kind of lackluster and a bit lacking compared to his best stuff. That's George Ezra. And I'll get this next one on because it's a throwback to an old song, which I'm sure you'll recognise. In fact, I think the song has been done a couple of times. There was the original by Eiffel 65, way back in like 99. And was it Flow Rider or someone who used this? Someone did in the noughties. It's that instantly recognisable piano melody, which is a very nice melody. I just didn't really like the Eiffel 65 original tune, Blue. It's very gimmicky. Oh no, that's a different one. You know what I mean. That was Gypsy Woman, wasn't it? But it's similar kind of, still kind of similar, gibberish vocals. Now this one features BB Rexa. So it's another song that, you basically know the melody already. When you strip away all the electronics, it is a nice melody. With all the electronics, it's kind of getted by numbers, really. He's had a couple of really strong songs recently. BED, Bed, that was a really good one, which actually grew on me after I did the video. And Crazy What Love Can Do, which I liked when I did the video. Always liked that one. So this is David Guetta and BB Rexa. I'm Good. Blue, not as in pornographic, although it has to be said she is rather sexy. In the video anyway. It's a bit third hand really. Now, someone who can't really sing very well. It's not really for me to criticise other singers. I'm not the best in the world. But Eliza Rose, and I'm assuming it's her singing, she kind of doesn't really hit all the right notes, I'm sure. I'll play it because the music's good. And it's actually another one based on an old 90s or noughties song. It's Eliza Rose and Interplanetary Criminal. BOTA. Baddest of them all. So there we go, a bit of David Guetta and BB Rexa. I'm Good, Blue, not I'm Blue, Good. And here's Eliza Rose and Interplanetary Criminal. Now, if you're a real dance music buff, you'll know where those organs come from. Do you know? It's a song called Happiness by Sound Design. And it was also used on another song by Asbo featuring Catherine Ellis called Let It Hit 'Em. So it's another one that's kind of third hand. It's kind of stripped down and fairly minimal. It's actually very fast. It's into the 130s BPM instead of the 120s. And it's fairly minimal. If you like the organ, you'll like it. It's just that, she kind of doesn't really hit all the right notes. But it doesn't really ruin it. At least they've not used auto-tune, or if they have, they've kind of pitched it out deliberately. Talking of my own singing, got my own album coming out. It's up for release next week. So I should put some links to that. Now that's what I call music me. It's all well and good doing all these reviews, but I kind of feel, if you've not done your own album, you can't really criticise other people's. So I made my own. And I use listening to all these nows as kind of research and inspiration. And I like to think there's something from all the nows in my own album, but you didn't come here for that. Well, maybe you did. You came here for Now 113. So there we go. Eliza Rose and Interplanetary Criminal, BOTA. This one is followed by Tiesto and Charlie XCX. There's something being a bit wrong with the Tiesto stuff for ages. I can't really put my finger on it. Maybe it's just because of his legacy, and if he'd never done that stuff in the first place, I'd think of him differently. But, you know, he did some really amazing kind of uplifting trance stuff about 20 years ago. And his pop stuff has just been really kind of crass somehow. It's always well produced and, you know, it has its moments. But, I don't know, it's just kind of average and cookie cutter. It's almost like he's going out of his way to be average. Which is kind of weird for someone who used to be really sort of transcendental. Charlie XCX, well, you know, she's not been great. She's had her moments. I don't really like her. And it's just kind of very average, really. So, you know, it's not as good as The Getter, to be honest, for that kind of stuff. That's Tiesto and Charlie XCX, Hot In It. Now, here's one I really do like. And this one is a contender for Song of the Album. A friend of me sent me a link the other day saying that modern songs don't have key changes in, or very rarely. So it's quite nice to hear one that's got a good old-fashioned key change in. And it's not the only old-fashioned thing about this song. It's decidedly 1984 or 85. My first thought musically was something like the Pointer Sisters, with maybe a bit of Hey Mickey thrown in by Tony Basil. But it really could have come from Now 4 sonically, which is no bad thing. It's To Be Loved. Am I Ready? I must say, I didn't like the first Lizzo song that I heard. I really didn't. But this one and the one before I've really liked. And she's really got a good personality, I think. You know, she's just kind of she's a character. And this song's very fast and energetic. It's sort of got lots of fast beats and stuff. Her voice is good. Yeah. It's just a good one you do sort of workouts to and stuff. Very kind of mid-80s dance pop. Yep, we like it. We really like it. So that's Lizzo and To Be Loved. Am I Ready? Okay, Lil Nas X follows this one. And this, let me get this right, it's the League of Legends World's Anthem. It's called Star Walking. And it's certainly epic in scope, and it sounds absolutely massive. It's still kind of post-trap, really, I suppose, in terms of genre. But it's very pop, it's very well sung, very well produced, totally fit for purpose, and you can't complain. You can complain about Mimi Webb, not so much the music, just the vocals. I don't like her voice, I've never liked her voice, and I'm not starting with this one. It's Ghost of You. It's got more 80s production, it's got the 80s vibe. But, you know, at the end of the day, there's only two songs from the 80s that are about ghosts that we want to listen to. Ghostbusters and Thriller. And it's neither of them. It's Ghost of You by Mimi Webb. Well, maybe Amityville by Lovebug Starsky. That's quite a good one as well. Was Rockwell Someone's Always Watching Me? Was that about ghosts? Or we don't really know what was watching him in that song. It could have been a ghost. It could have been a stalker. But anyway... that's 80s ghost songs. Mimi Webb is not one of them, but it's not so bad, and it has got the 80s sound. Now, very weird one now. I'll stick it on, because it's quite different. It's a guy called Steve Lacy. I've not heard of him before. And the song is called Bad Habit. Didn't Ed Sheeran do one called Bad Habit, or Bad Habits, fairly recently? There's that key change, by the way. So, yeah, it's To Be Loved, and it's not the Pointer Sisters, it's Lizzo. But you could be forgiven for getting them confused, to be honest. There we go. Yeah, Steve Lacy. No relation to my musical collaborator, JJ Lacy. Check out his stuff. It's absolutely brilliant. So who's Steve Lacy then? Well, he's certainly got a lot of subscribers. Now, if this reminds you of anything, believe it or not, it's Paul McCartney. Kind of... late 70s Paul McCartney. It's a very weird one. It's slow, but it's not a ballad as such. It's kind of got a band sound, but it's kind of a bit processed. It's got some really nice kind of synths in there, quite lacerating analogue synths. Yeah, it reminds you a bit of Paul McCartney's kind of late 70s synthy stuff. Towards the end, the beat switches up a bit and it becomes a bit more of a shuffle groove, which, to be honest, I don't like as much as this sort of more bandy sound. In this context, anyway. So it's an interesting new sound. Yeah, good synth there. Steve Lacy. Now, this is followed up with KSI, and that's got more shuffly kind of beats on it. Yeah, what can I say about that? It features Tom Grennan. It's called Not Over Yet. It's nothing to do with the old Grace song of the same name, which I heard the other day and thought still sounds good. It's almost kind of D&B tempo, not quite, but it's kind of getting there. There's a good 20 more beats per minute than on this Steve Lacy one. It's kind of hybrid of guitars and electronics, and it's got soaring vocals, pretty strong chorus, and some nice kind of ghostly backing vocals. Should we stick it on? Because there's a run of ones that aren't brilliant. So we'll go through Steve Lacy there, and a very good song called Bad Habit, to KSI, and another good song called Not Over Yet, featuring Tom Grennan. The crowds love it. So next up we have Burna Boy, Last. Now I gather that he's from Nigeria originally, or of Nigerian descent, but is based in Cleveland, Ohio. It's what I would have called dancehall about 10 or 20 years ago. I don't know if it's still called dancehall, but it's certainly derived from that kind of dancehall sound. And it's fairly generic, to be honest. A lot of people do seem to really like it. It's not bad, it's not brilliant, it's just generic. Another one that I'm not a bundle over is Fireboy DML, featuring our old friend Ed Sheeran yet again. And it's called Peru. Now, despite that South American name, it's kind of more Afrocentric. These are definitely coming in a bit at the moment. For better or worse. Mainly better, but sometimes worse. Depends on the song, really. We take them on a song-by-song basis. It's kind of a bit light and floaty. Doesn't really hit the spot. Lacks a bit of oomph, really. Ed, he's not really very African. He's about as African as Yorkshire pudding, really. But he kind of gets in the spirit. He's a good performer, can try the hand at anything. So it's okay. That's Fireboy DML featuring Ed Sheeran. Or is it the other way around? Ed Sheeran featuring Fireboy DML, and the song's called Peru. And scarcely has he time to even light a fag, Ed is back again, the third time on this side, and decidedly the weakest. It's Aitch and Ed Sheeran, my G. So if you don't like Ed Sheeran, you're not going to like this side. And I don't like Aitch's rapping. I think the G stands for garbage. It's utter shite. So it's a really, really poor song there. Mikey, Aitch by Ed Sheeran. This is totally rubbish. Sam Ryder, well, it's better. It's a bit too much the other direction now, a bit too jolly hockey sticks. He's a bit of a joker. He's got a good personality, and he's a kind of likeable guy. It's just a bit overbearing, really. Pink is next, and she's been around for a while. I'm not going to play it. I'm going to get the one after Stacked Up. Yes, Pink, good 20 plus years in the business, and it's quite a rocker for her, kind of, pop rock. She's calling someone an effing hypocrite. I don't quite know, it's very angry. I'm not quite sure who she's angry at. Maybe herself, because she does sometimes do a bit of self-loathing stuff. She goes, girls just want to have rights, which is fair enough, but it's a far cry from Cyndi Lauper on Now 2, who said girls just want to have fun. I think Weird Al Yankovic had it right. He said girls just want to have lunch. And that applies to most of the girls I know, I think. Anyway. So yeah, Pink. And it's okay. It's not too bad. Irrelevant, it's called. Which is, it's not really irrelevant. It's kind of relevant. TV by Billie Eilish. Oh, Billie, cheer up, you silly sausage. Have you ever done a nice, upbeat, happy song? I mean, it's nice to do sensitive ballads every now and then to show you've got that sentimental side, but not every bloody song. You can kind of feel your life draining away with every beat of this one. Got any Bananarama? But that said, it's not bad. It's kind of depressing as hell, but it's not bad. I swear I kind of did a double take when I heard her mention Roe versus Wade in the lyrics, which I believe, and I could be wrong, it's the first ever court case ever to be name-checked on a Now album in the lyrics. So that gets a few bonus points. And it's certainly interesting. Now, was it Overmax who a couple of Nows ago said maybe you're the problem? Billie is saying maybe she's the problem. She says maybe I'm the problem, meaning her, not me. If you can keep up with that. And she says it over and over again, maybe I'm the problem, maybe I'm the problem. And a choir kind of builds in, and that's really nice. So it's like a lot of Billie Eilish songs. It just takes a bit of a while to really get going. You kind of give up hope, and then it kind of, just when you're about to drive off a cliff, it kind of stops you. I just wish you'd cheer up a bit. Why don't you do a version of Always Look on the Bright Side? Monty Python. Quite interesting. Okay, now we have a few songs to end this side before we move over to the next one. And we go into the more kind of indie rock stuff, if you can call it that. It's the 1975, and I'm in Love with You. It's very soft indie, very pop indie, but it's good. All the elements are in place. It's not the strongest song melodically or lyrically, but it's okay. It's perfectly listenable. It's a good kind of timeless band sort of sound. It doesn't hold a candle to the next one, which is The Killers and Boy, which I was not expecting to suddenly turn into A Little Respect by Erasure halfway through, as it does. So compare and contrast to that. It's on Now 13. It's still basically guitar pop, but it's got some kind of Giorgio Moroder style sequences and a kind of disco beat. And it all kind of combines nicely to make an extremely rousing, uplifting song. So that's a good one. And a very good one to end the side, actually. We'll stick it on. Following this Billie Eilish one is Panic at the Disco. Don't Let the Light Go Out. Well, is that a song about the energy crisis? Who knows? It's nice though. It's really nice. It kind of reminds you a bit of ABBA or someone melodically. Not in terms of style, but that kind of winner takes it all kind of feeling. Now, back in the 1980s, there was a song by the Cars called Drive. Lovely song. Who's going to drive you home tonight? And in this case, the Panics, or whatever they're called, as opposed to the Manics, they say, who's going to drive me home tonight? So maybe I should put singer Brendan in touch with Rick Ocasek from the Cars. Maybe he'll give him a lift home. Well, if that doesn't work, seeing as he's actually passed away, I don't think you can get a driving licence if you're deceased. I could be wrong. Maybe I should just put him in touch with Uber. Who's going to drive you home? Yeah, it's a nice song. It's really nice. It's got a kind of retro, rocky sound to it. It's emotional. And it's a good way of ending this side then. I've liked this side so far. Definitely more good than bad. It's nothing really kind of stand out great. I think so far the best song's probably Lizzo. This is up there though. This is a contender. As we move on to side 2. Okay, let's move on to side 2 then. Now, we've got a very, very unlikely pairing, but kind of makes sense when you look at it in the bigger picture. It's Mr. Elton John. Wow. And he's been here since Now 4, I think, was his first appearance, even though obviously he'd been having hits for, well, a decade, at least 1 decade before the original Now. And Britney Spears, who made her debut at the very, very end of the 90s. If you followed all these videos, you know that I've always been a real fan of Britney, and I've followed her kind of ups and downs, and it's really nice to have her back. And fair play to Elton for giving her a platform to kind of ease her way back. She's kind of in the background here. She's not very prominent, but that kind of it's kind of nice. It's haunting. It's a very compassionate kind of song, this, in a way. In fact, like Cold Cold Heart, it's a mashup of 2 old Elton songs, Tiny Dancer being this chorus bit, and The One makes up the verse. The One was actually on Now 22, and they're both kind of reinvented and put together again, and it's very nice, very kind of ambient dance pop, and it's got some really nice bass on it, and at the very end you get some kind of classic Elton piano stuff. Also Britney's voice, it's kind of very broken. It really does sound very haunting, very sort of troubled. But it's really good to have her back. And I really like this. It's definitely a contender for one of the songs of the album. And it's very, very well placed. The one that follows it. In fact, I've done a DJ mix and I put them the other way around. They go together really, really well. I'll stick it on as well. So there's Elton and Britney and Hold Me Closer, and it mixes in smoothly to this one, which is Calvin Harris yet again, and he's back with a whole bunch of people. Halsey, who does these bits. Hello, Halsey. I've always liked her stuff. She's really good. She even made a Chainsmokers song half decent, which takes real talent. Also, we've got our old friends Justin Timberlake and Pharrell Williams. Wow, how star-studded is this? Now, sometimes these mega name ones have so many people on that they don't really get a chance to shine, and it's full of ego, but this really isn't. This is just nice. It's very, very 70s, very post-Silk Sonic. And I think Calvin Harris shows his production skills here by not overproducing it. He's left it nice and kind of spacey. It's got these nice splashy guitars on it. Everyone just kind of contributes to the vibe of it really well. Yeah, another contender for best on the album. So what an opening what an opener this side. And it goes on with the lovely, delectable Becky Hill. She can't put her foot wrong. She teams up with Joel Corey, who's done some real bangers. Now, last year, or in fact earlier this year, Becky had a couple of career highs, I would say, with Crazy What Love Can Do and Run, both collabs, and both absolutely brilliant songs. This one doesn't quite reach those highs. It's History. But it's not bad. It's really, really good. And by any other measure, it would be a really good song. It's just that Becky did two like amazingly brilliant songs. It's not quite up to those standards, but not far from it. Okay, next up we've got a strange one, a strange beast indeed. It's Lude, who did. In fact, I'll stick it on. There's a lot here I want to play actually on this side, so we won't get many. We won't get long of each one, but you'll get a flavour of what's on the album. Yeah, Lude. He did the thing with Colin Hay from. I was going to say Men Without Hats, Men at Work. I always get those two bands confused. They were both on Now One. Yeah, the Down Under thing. And Lude has plundered another now, which I reckon is about now 64. I have to check it out. It was Matterfix and Big City Life. Now, I've got to say, it's not the only time on this album. We'll come on to this again soon, where it's some absolutely sick D&B beats, just a bit over-smothered by the vocals. The music is really good. It's almost kind of jump up D&B when it gets going. I didn't really like the original by Matterfix. I seem to remember it was immediately before Damian Marley, Welcome to Jam Rock. And I always just skipped over this to get to that. But listen to this. Ooh. Lude's beats are second to none. Really, really good. Just not sure we need all those vocals over it. If you want anything over that, it'd be an MC, I would have thought. But maybe it's just me. The beats, you just can't complain if they're so full of energy. So there we go. Lude and Matterfix. And another contender now for Song of the Album. Another one I'm going to play. Really, really good song. Really good song. Everything about this next song's good. There's Lude and Matterfix. Here is James Hype and Miggy De La Rosa and Ferrari. Well, it's got some really, really good pumping house beats. Really well produced. And they're juxtaposed with this kind of acoustic guitar and vocal thing. Very catchy. All the lyrics seem to be actually addressed to a Ferrari. It does literally sound like a love song to a car. Like Pink Cadillac. Do you remember that? By Natalie Cole. Well, she was in love with the car, but she thought the boyfriend was. He spent all his time going on about his car. Miggy, I'm guessing, is singing here. Miggy De La Rosa. Singing about the Ferrari. Or maybe it's about a woman or indeed a man who makes him feel like a Ferrari. Either way, it's just a really good combination of musical melody stuff and banging beats, really good build-up. Wait for it, really good switch. Yes, really good. And I like that kind of almost flamenco kind of guitar on this. Really, really good song. Followed by another really good one. I won't play it because I've got a lot to get through, but it's LF System, and they're back again. This time, Hungry for Love. They plunder these really obscure 70s disco songs and do kind of like 90s style vocal house, much more in the kind of keeping of old school house than this more progressive stuff, which is no bad thing. It is what it is. Very Scottish. I was up in Glasgow earlier, and yeah, I really got a taste of a kind of Scottish music tastes, and I can see why LF System fit into that properly. If you're interested, the original 70s song is Hungry by Sandy's Gang, and this kind of really pumping house one, it kind of slows down every now and then with sort of like weird breaks, but yeah, good song, Hungry. Now, just when it was all going like really well, it starts to take a bit of a turn with this next one. Anne-Marie and Aitch. Aitch is not doing very well, is he? Sorry, mate. It's Psycho, and I just don't like her voice. I mean, I tried to give it a listen. The pianos are quite interesting, but I can't listen to that voice, and I don't want to. Why would I want to listen to that when I can listen to Becky Hill, or Miggy De La Rosa, or Pharrell, and Halsey, and Justin? There's too many good people on this album to me want to listen to Anne-Marie. Now, Rosalind, she's better. It's a bit kind of little girl, and I don't really like her voice, but I do like the music. I'll stick it on, actually. It is Snap. Nothing to do with the guys who did I Got the Power. It sounds a bit like Feist or something. Do you remember that? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very kind of folky. So there we go from James Hype and Mickey De La Rosa to Rosalind. Hold on. Mickey De La Rosa. Rosalind. See what I did there? So, alright, yeah, we don't really like the voice. It's not too bad. But I like the music. It's kind of quite acousticy, quite folky. And there's even a kind of wobble board in there. Now, I'm not going to get to play much of this. I want to play a little bit, because it kind of builds up nicely. If you can hear it. Yeah, next up, one that really surprised me. Kat Burns. Really wasn't sure what I'd think of this, because she's been very up and down. I get her mixed up with Doja Cat. Maybe that's the problem. People Pleaser is an absolute revelation. It really is. I love that. That's one thing I love about Nails, when someone really takes you by surprise and does something you're just not expecting. Let's get it on. So a bit of Rosalind, not a lot, but a little, and Snap. Now this one really goes on a journey. It's People Pleaser, so it starts just kind of fairly, you're like, well, yeah, right. Nothing special particularly, but it just builds and builds. And this is a really fun song, and it's got real magic. Now the funny thing about this is I was talking about Pink and Billie Eilish on side one, sort of maybe saying kind of self-loathing, depressing stuff. This one's, I won't say it's self-loathing, but she's obviously got issues that she talks about, but it's uplifting, it's transcendental, and it takes you on a journey, and it's like it's taking her on a journey while she's singing it. This is a really upbeat song. Yeah, it's personal, it's heartfelt, it's emotional, and again, it's compassionate. Yeah, and it's dynamic. It wasn't sounding like it was about a minute ago. So it's an absolute contender for Song of the Album. I was not expecting it, and I think it's by far and away, the best thing I've heard from Kat Burns so far. A very kind of new paradigm, while still having a kind of classic vibe to it. And in a similar vein, actually, I'll get this one on as well. An awful lot to get through here, but let's be honest, the good times aren't going to last forever. Kat Burns and People Pleaser. Well, you certainly pleased me with that one. It's a return of a kind of girl band, vocal band that we've not really had that many of. I guess you've had things like Little Mix, but I'm thinking more of like Stuche and stuff like that. Misty. It's Flo and Cardboard Box. So we have a cat in a box. It must be Schrodinger's cat. Kat Burns going into a cardboard box. Really nice harmonies on this. Really nice melodies. If you've got a good melody and good harmonies, you're halfway there. Good lyrics. I guess you're 3/4 of the way there. And good beats gets you all the way there. I'm going to put your shit in a cardboard box. There we go then. Flo. Now, Ollie Murs is next. It's another in a very, very long line of songs that kind of sounds a bit reminiscent of The Police. Digging the Ditch that The Police first dug, if you like, which I guess is kind of stiff white reggae. It's not the best song ever, but it's pretty listenable. It's not bad. Another one that's pretty good is Tom Grennan, and it's another one that's kind of got the 80s synth beat, All These Nights. Very kind of whiz bang, lots of stuff going on there, lots of kind of crashes and whooshes and stuff, lots of energy, maybe not the best melody. Now, one that's got another good melody, and I'll get this one on, is KSI, back for the second time with Summer Is Over. Great song there, Flo and Cardboard Box. KSI, Summer Is Over. Just KSI here, he normally collabs with people. Doesn't really need to if you can do this stuff on your own. It's well sung, it's got a very catchy melody, it's very haunting, it's not overdone, it's very kind of expansive and hazy, really nice drums on it. Yeah, it's kind of subtle, so it's another contender, good stuff. More Afro beats from Burna Boy, and I make this the 4th time that Ed Sheeran makes an appearance on a Now. Has anyone ever done that before in the history of Nows? Has anyone ever made 4 appearances on one album? He's actually on good voice here. This one, yeah, it's For My Hand. It's kind of soft and emotional, so it's not too bad at all. Is it pronounced Oxlade or something? And it's Kulo-sa. So we're getting a real lot of this kind of Afrobeat stuff. This one's maybe not one of the best. It's not too bad. There's a lot of singing, but there's not really much in the way of catchy melodies. And it's a bit light and nothingy. So it's not bad, but it's not one I'd ever go back to be honest. Now, I always get filled with trepidation when I line up a Post Malone song, because ever since Rockstar, which was diabolical, but generally he's kind of exceeded expectations with a lot of his other stuff. I can definitely see the appeal of this one. I can see why people like it. It's called I Like You, a happier song, and it features Doja Cat on my own album, which I mentioned. There's a song called I Like You, with a U. He's done it the old school way. I Like You, Y-O-U. Yeah, it's not bad. It's very well produced. But again, it's not very memorable as such. It's not really much of a kind of original song. It's very kind of just sung in a particular style without really having a melody. Maybe that's what people like. But for myself, I like a melody. I don't mind if it's sung a bit kind of flawed. I just like a really good melody. And I don't think that's really got one. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all, really. Could be worse. Brucey. I don't like his vocals. It's the second time where you've had good D&B beats, brilliant D&B beats, but the vocals just interfere. His vocals are monotonous, they're tuneless, they're not saying anything, but the beats are great. I'd really like to just hear an instrumental version of that. Brucey, no excuses, and there really are no excuses for blundering all over good beats with shit vocals. Benz. Right, well, literally only just had 21 Reasons by Nathan Dorr and Ella Henderson, which used the Calabria, and it's used yet again, and it's really unoriginal. Benz, Je m'appelle. There's really nothing particularly original about it that you've not heard a million times before, particularly the Calabria riff. Stick with the Nathan Dorr one, it's way better. Right, one that I'll just skip through before we get to the next one that we'll play. Yet again, it's Guetta and Sigala and a bunch of people who've all done other stuff. Sam Ryder. Now, the kind of music's pretty good, but his vocals really don't lend themselves to this kind of music, I don't think. I tried putting it in a DJ set and his vocals stood out like a sore thumb. So I like the music, but I don't really like his vocals. That's Guetta and Sigala and Sam Ryder. And the song is called Living Without You. Now here's one that sounded just like Oh Superman at the start by Laurie Anderson. Great song if you've not heard that. Check that one, Oh Superman. And I'm sure it's a kind of homage. But it slowly builds and changes, and eventually it becomes the third of 3 D&B songs on here. And it's the third one that's got kind of vocals on it. These, I have to say, are way better and way more kind of bedded in with the D&B beats. You can actually really enjoy the beats much more on this. It's Rita Ora, who, you know, she's done some... Well, she started off really badly, and then did the brilliantly good Anywhere. Still one of the best songs of the, well, ever really, one of the best pop songs of all time. Probably in my top 20 pop songs ever. In all these 40 years of doing Nows, I've got to say that Anywhere by Rita Ora is absolutely A++. And this is A+ as well. This is really good. Netsky's done the music. Barricades. So I'm really glad. I really like it when Rita Ora does good stuff. She is capable of it. But it's like her quality control's not there. She does a lot of mediocre stuff as well. She can sing really well. And she can do really good songs. And this is one of them. Dermot Kennedy is next. With a song that is very reminiscent of With or Without You by U2. Very, very four-chordy. That's Kiss Me. And it's nothing to do with the Sixpence None the Richer song. Or indeed the Stephen Tintin Duffy one. It's not bad though. It's quite nice. It's kind of ambient, retro, kind of soft rock. Now, 2 songs to compare and contrast now. Critical Thinking 101. First up, we've got All For You. Sean Ducrot and Ella Henderson. And then secondly, we've got Tom Odell and Another Love. Now, when I talk about over-singing, the Sean and the Ella one is really oversung. Really oversung. It's basically just an acoustic piano ballad, but it's really oversung. Whereas the Tom Odell one is kind of not oversung. It's sang properly and nicely. I'll get a bit of it on. Yeah, this is Tom Odell and Another Love. And it sounds a bit like this. No, that's an advert. It sounds a bit like this. Yeah, so compare and contrast this with the one before, Sean and Ella. And in that one, it's almost, I wouldn't say it's alienating, but in this one, you feel like you're actually in the room with him. You just feel like your friend's in the room playing a piano, and you're just listening. With the other one, it feels too kind of over-processed in a way, over-compressed, which is a shame, because Ella can be good. But this, Tom Odell, yeah, Another Love. And it does build this one. It doesn't stay just acoustic with the piano. Next up, we've got Lost and Robbie Williams. I'm not going to play a lot of much of these because I want to play that one as well. Just to say welcome back to Robbie Williams, who made his first appearance as part of Take That on Now 22, which was notable because it also had the Elton John, The One, which was used just now with the thingy, Stay With Me, whatever it's called. Hold Me Closer, Stay With Me was Calvin. So, Robbie's back. Lost. Yep, he made his first appearance on Now 22 with Take That. And then when they split, he did loads and loads of solo stuff through the late 90s and early noughties. And it's a nice song. It's kind of personal. It's not overproduced, not oversung. Lots of strings on this album. Loads and loads of strings, actually. Yet again, it's real strings. It's not synth strings. So that's nice. Yeah, very haunting. And it's basically the Metropole Orchestra. So it's newly orchestrated versions of his greatest hits. XXV, the album. 25. Now, finally, Very Strange Beast. Do you remember also about the time, well, yeah, about the time of Now 22, although I don't think there are any on that one. But certainly Now 23, 24, 25, that era, you couldn't get away from post-Freddie Mercury Queen stuff. He just died at the tail end of 91, and there was all sorts of kind of undiscovered stuff that he'd done or unreleased things they put out. Living on My Own made number 1 in 1993, more dancey number. Here's another one after all this time, over 30 years after his death. There's another discovery of an old Freddie vocal. Can we stick it on? There's Robbie Williams and Lost. Yes, it's Freddie Mercury back for 2022, which is always good because he's never really gone away in my house, musically speaking. Always been a fan, always will be. And it's Face It Alone. So it's another kind of morose song. I must say, I think my favourite Freddie Mercury songs are really up-tempo, pumping ones. Even some of his solo stuff, like I Was Born to Love You and Love Kills, I really like. This is, yeah, it's a kind of ballad. It's a bit like kind of The Show Must Go On or These Are the Days of Our Lives or something. it kind of feels like it's about death and stuff. But it's Freddie Mercury and it's 2022 and it's a song I've not heard before, so there you go. And it's a good end to this pretty damn good album, actually. I've liked way more than I've disliked. There's 48 songs, I'd say there's a good 25 or 30 on there, easily. What ones do I think are going to be classics? And more importantly, what do you guys think? Well, the Lewis one, the Sam Smith one with Kim Petras is quite interesting. One Republic, Stormzy, and Ed Sheeran, kind of adequate. George Ezra, David Guetta, Eliza Rose, adequate dance number. I think the first real classic one that we get to is Lizzo. That's a really good contender for Song of the Album. Then there's a few that are adequate. Steve Lacy was quite interesting. The KSI was pretty interesting. 2 good songs from him. Then there was that Fireboy DML one, which was adequate, and Burna Boy. The Aitch one I really didn't like. Billie Eilish, depressing as hell, but not bad. And a good one from Panic at the Disco, and a good one from The Killers. They're both good. Right, some really strong songs start side 2. The Elton and Britney one's brilliant. The Calvin, Halsey, Justin and Pharrell one's really good. Joel and Becky's pretty damn good. Lude and Matterfix, the beats are exceptional. I don't really think the vocals work that well with it. Ferrari, that's a definite contender for Song of the Album. LF System, that's good. No, not Anne-Marie. Rosalind was interesting. Cat Burns was definite contender because I was really not expecting it. A real contender for Song of the Album, that one. Flo, that's up there. Maybe not quite up at the level of Cat Burns, but still really good. Tom and Ollie were pretty good. KSI, that was really good. Burna Boy and Oxlade. Post Malone, adequate. Brucey, nah. If you want to hear something for Calabria, I'll go for the one on the last nail, Nathan and Ella. Benz, sorry, that was the one that used that. Brucey was the one with the D&B beats. Scala, David Guetta and Sam Ryder, the vocals kind of ruin it. Next guy and Rita Ora, another really good one. The best of the D&B ones, I think, in terms of the best combination of beats and vocals. Dermot was okay. Sean and Ella oversang. Tom Odell sang much better. Robbie Williams, pretty good. And this one from Queen, Face It Alone. So there we go. I will deliberate on my best song. I've got a few to go through. My kind of instinct says Ferrari, but then it could be the Elton one. It could be Calvin. It could equally be Cat Burns, People Pleaser. I'm kind of inching towards that one, actually. I think because it's so interesting and different, and it's not like anything you've heard and anything you thought you'd hear. So yeah, we shall see. Alright guys, now 113, definitely worth a listen, definitely worth buying. You'll get a good 25-30 songs from that, whatever you like. Okay guys, see you later, have a really good Christmas. And I will see you, hopefully, with Now 114 in 2023. See you later.